Hey everyone, I am here today to share my July 2020 biblical fiction reads. I can't believe it's already August, guys. So these are all the books that I read for July. July, I have to say, I read a lot. I think I read about 7 books this month, but I went through them pretty quick, mostly because my daughter and my husband both got the coronavirus, so none of us were allowed to go anywhere. So reading really helped with the boredom. So the first one is one of the Ordinary Women of the Bible series, An Unlikely Witness, Joannas Story. And Joanna is a biblical character from the New Testament around the time of Paul. If you guys don't know about the Ordinary Women of the Bible series, it's a great series that you get from Guideposts, and you sign up on their site and you'll get a book every month. This month I actually read 3 of them. I did not get 3 books in 1 month. I just had May, June, and July still in the house. So I hadn't read them in a while, so I figured I'd go ahead and start reading them. This one was a great one. It actually made me think a little bit deeper. There's really not a whole lot said about Joanna in the Bible, but the fictionalized story of her life was actually really interesting, so I really enjoyed this one. Okay, the next one is Esther, Royal Beauty by Angela Hunt. This one was okay, honestly. I'm not really a huge fan of Angela Hunt's books. They're very, very historically accurately detailed. So if you're not really into a history lesson, they're probably not for you. I read this one because I really do like the story of Esther in the Bible, but this one was a little bit different. It was more like Esther wasn't like a, let me see, like a Jewish maiden who was humble in this story. She was more like always dreaming of the palace and the king and stuff, even when she was little, and you know, having fanciful thoughts about stuff that was out of her realm. So I don't personally believe that Esther was this way, so this one was okay for me. I would probably say it was probably about 3 stars. Okay, the next one is The Last Drop of Oil, a Dahlia story, and this is another Ordinary Women of the Bible book from Guideposts. This one, we actually don't know her name. All we know is it is the woman that Elijah came to, and it was the widow, and she had just enough flour and just enough oil to make bread and to eat, and then her and her son would die afterwards. And Elijah said, if you bake that bread for me, you'll never run out of oil and never run out of flour until the rains come back. And she had enough faith to do it, and sure enough, she never ran out. This was a great one, I have to say. If I could rate more than 5 stars, this was a great story. The author, I've never read Virginia Smith's books before, but she really put it in perspective of how desperate the situation was for this widow and her son, where they literally had nothing except just that one drop of oil and that one bit of flour left. Because back in the biblical times, if someone died, especially a husband, the rest of the town or the family will try to help. But this one, she was cut off from everybody, and no one would help her at all. So it really put everything into perspective. This one was an excellent read. Okay, I have to say, this is my new favorite biblical fiction book, Love in a Broken Vessel by Misu Andrews. Guys, this is a retelling of Hosea and Gomer from the Bible. Hosea, God told him to marry a, let's just say a woman of the night, okay? We all know what I'm talking about. Because Israel had went with other nations and other, gods and stuff, and were worshiping falsely. And it was a foreshadowing of God's extreme love for his people and what he would do and the lengths he would do to get them back. Guys, this story was amazing. If you've never read this one, you have to read it. The love that is personified in Hosea towards Gomer, his wife, is amazing, but it really, really speaks volumes about how much God loves us and how far he's willing to go to get us. This story is a must read. It was the best biblical fiction book I have ever read. Okay, the next one is Hava, the Story of Eve by Tosca Lee. Guys, this one's probably about a 2-star for me, honestly, because there was a lot of sort of sensuality themes in this book that I'm not really into for biblical fiction. You know, I never was a deep thinker about if Adam and Eve, you know, were kind of sensual in the garden. But, you know, this book sort of got into that. And even though it didn't describe anything like, you know, grossly, it was still mentioned and, you know, partially described, so you kind of knew what they were doing. And, you know, there was some parts in here that I think needed to be left out. Basically, the story is, in my opinion, they both were playing the blame game throughout their entire lives of they were angry and bitter with each other for having to have been kicked out of the garden. At one point, Adam even slapped Eve across the face. Guys, I don't really believe that something like that would happen, so I really did not enjoy this retelling. Okay, the next one is The Prophetess by Jill Eileen Smith. This is a retelling of Deborah's story. Deborah in the Bible, she was the only woman prophetess that was a judge. And because of her, she had gotten messages from God after 20 years from being suppressed by Sisera's army. She was able to tell Barak, who was the commander of Israel's army, to go, that God was finally with them and that he would deliver them that day. Now this was big, guys, because Sisera's army had like 900 chariots and Israel really didn't even have any weapons. So this was like bare hand soldiers going against tanks, okay? So this story was great. I really love Jill Eileen Smith, and I really think she did a great job with this one. And then my last one is A Perilous Journey, yet again another Ordinary Women of the Bible book. And this one is about Phoebe, and she is also part of a story with Paul. And she is one that was a deacon, apparently, from the Bible for one of the early churches. And she had helped Paul in different ways. So this one was actually a really neat one, too. Overall, I'm really impressed with all these books. Like I said, some of them didn't really do a whole lot for me, and then some of them were absolutely amazing, and I would have to suggest them to anybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This, again, was my July 2020 Biblical Fiction Reads, and if you guys want to join my Biblical Fiction book club, it's on Facebook, and I will link it in the description below.